Mexico.
The Gulf of America, what a beautiful name.
Greg Clugston, Washington.
House Republican leaders are laying out their agenda for the 119th Congress. Majority Whip Tom Emmer says dealing with illegal immigration will be job number one.
With Joe Biden, Chuck Schumer, and the party of lawlessness out of the way, the radical left's mission to enable criminal illegal aliens, yet people keep writing undocumented whatever, criminal illegal aliens at the expense of law-abiding Americans, it's no longer going to be tolerated.
GOP leaders say they will work with the White House to deliver on promises made to the American people. Germany's foreign minister says sanctions against Syrian officials responsible for war crimes have to remain in place for now, but they're calling for a, quote, smart approach to provide relief to the Syrian population after last month's overthrow of strongman Bashar Assad. Saudi Arabia holding a press conference on the matter with Germany. This is SRN News.
You heard me talk about Relief Factor and how so many people enjoy a better, more pain-free life because of it. If you're dealing with everyday pain, it makes sense you'd want to try it first. Well, Relief Factor makes that pretty pain-free too with their 3-week quick start kit for only $19.95. An easy, affordable way to see how it could literally change your life, like it has mine. Relief Factor is a daily supplement that fights pain naturally. Developed by doctors, Relief Factor doesn't just mask pain temporarily, it helps reduce or eliminate pain. In fact, the longer you take it, the more effective it is. Trying it couldn't be easier with their 3-week quick start for only $19.95, less than $1 a day. And it just takes a phone call to 1-800-4RELIEF. That's 1-800-4RELIEF. 1-800-4RELIEF. Wherever you're having pain, every day you feel better is a day you live better. Try Relief Factor's 3-week quick start. Visit ReliefFactor.com. That's ReliefFactor.com or call 1-800-4RELIEF. 800-4RELIEF for Relief Factor.
At Simple Path Retirement, we can offer many of the resources of the large firms, but with the personal attention of a boutique firm. Visit SimplePathRetirement.com.
Just when you thought your smartphone couldn't get any smarter, now you can add the AM860 app with local news, national headlines, and commentary. The answer is smart. Adding the AM860 app to your smartphone is genius. Get it now at the Apple App Store and Google Play.
Partly sunny skies for today. We'll see a daytime high of 62. Partly cloudy tonight, the low 52. Variable cloudiness tomorrow. Couple of showers in the afternoon. Tomorrow's high 71. Get your weather news when and how you want it wherever you are. Download our free app or visit AccuWeather.com. That's your AccuWeather forecast. I'm Drew Shannon for AM 860, The Answer.
The following program is sponsored by Bay Area Medical Can Care Clinic.
Go, Doc.
Good morning, everybody. This is Dr. Bill. Can you hear me okay, Ken?
I can hear you just fine. How can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine. And by God, we connect. We're connected. Joe did it. We did it.
With some lovely Spanish music in the background.
Absolutely. And I figured out how to hook up my Zoom to Facebook.
Ah, you're back on Facebook then. Good.
I'm back on Facebook. They take me off and let me back on and take me off. And I guess Zuckerberg decided that Dr. Bill was not a real threat to democracy and the American way of life. Did you see him on the podcast interview? I guess he was Joe Rogan.
I did not see that, no.
Oh, I mean, unbelievable. He said that Trump's people were calling and screaming at his people and cursing at them, telling them to take things off and don't allow this on and all that during the pandemic.
Biden's people were doing that.
Yeah, Biden. Who did I say?
You said Trump's people. No. It was
no,
Biden's
Trump,
people.
not Trump.
Yeah.
Biden's people, yeah. And so this is the Biden people are the ones that are saying that we're the threat to democracy. I don't think so, Ken. I don't think so. The real threat to democracy is the socio-fascist, the left-wing Democrats, and looks like they're going to be gone here in a couple of weeks, at least for a while.
At least for a couple of years. That's right.
Let's hope.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? The administration does a good job. It'll be longer.
Yeah, we might get another Republican president in for 8 years. Let's hope. Let's hope Trump doesn't get too many people ticked off. I guess he and
but that's what he does. That's what he does best.
Yeah, and
he shakes it up.
And,
you know,
if you listen to what he says, he really does.
We put them there to, shake it all up.
It's really, I mean, it sounds inflammatory, but if you listen closely, it's really not. I mean, it's just straightforward. He's just a straight shooter.
Yeah, he wants to do a lot of things. Lofty goals are always good. Whether he'll get them all done,
and he
who knows?
Kids around a lot too. So.
He does. Yeah, I think Golf with America.
Yeah, I
one
think
of those
it's
things.
a good thing.
I like
So
it.
at
It
any
sounds
rate,
good.
I've got a couple things I want to talk about this morning. I got to text my son and tell him not to bother me.
The boy bothering you today?
Yeah, he just started calling me on the phone. A little.
What? Right now?
Yeah, just right now.
Oh, we're doing a radio show. We can't do
calling
that.
Me.
Radio
I don't know what it is. I tell JT and I tell my son, I tell everybody, don't bother me between 9 and 10. Invariably, one of them acts up.
Nothing takes a precedence over radio.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Especially when you're streaming live on different venues. That's
Exactly.
even more important.
It's a big show here. They can't be calling
This
Dad.
is a big deal. And we're on Facebook and YouTube and Twitch and Twitter. And I don't know what all Joe's got.
Tell him to take 2 aspirin and call you in the morning.
Yep. That's what I tell him. So one of my Canadian patients came in and he said he had low testosterone, wanted to know if we could do replacement therapy. And I said, sure, we give injections of testosterone. That's not a problem. And it was actually very informative, and I learned a lot. He had done a lot of research, and he was actually ahead of me. And now we've gone from measuring testosterone to measuring free testosterone. So when you go in to see your doctor, if you want a testosterone level, you got to get the free testosterone. That's the active hormone. So the amount of testosterone in your system may go up and down depending on your binding proteins, because something's got to carry the testosterone around to the tissues. Now, there has been talk over the years of testosterone increasing your risk of heart attacks in men, replacement therapy, that is. And I looked at one study I looked at, and this was from, where was this from? This is from the New England Journal of Medicine, and this was in June of 2023. And their conclusion after they did their research was that there was no difference in the risk of a heart attack or cardiovascular disease with testosterone replacement therapy. So that's good to hear. And that the increased incidence of adverse effects were blood clots in the legs, kidney and lung problems. So, of course, lung problems because the blood clots break off and go to your lungs. The veins are where the clots form 99% of the time. And when those break off, they go through the venous system, which means they go up the inferior vena cava, and that goes into the right heart, and right atrium, then the right ventricle, and then the right ventricle pumps into the lungs through the lung arteries, the pulmonary arteries. So that's how you get pulmonary embolus or emboli or blood clots in your lungs. So there is an increased risk of that. And if you've had a prior history of blood clots in your legs, and you're not on an anticoagulant, then you may be at increased risk if you get back on testosterone replacement. Now, how big a problem is testosterone in older men? Well, it's estimated that 20 to 40% of guys in their 50s and older have dropping testosterone levels, Ken. So that's a goodly number.
What does it mean? What effect does that have on me as a 66-year-old guy?
Well, it decreases your muscle mass, decreases your libido, makes you nicer, actually. Really, because a lot of guys get nicer as they get older because their testosterone levels drop.
You lose your aggression, huh? Okay.
Yeah, to a certain degree you can. It depends on, of course, there's environmental factors, but it does tend to calm you down some. And, of course, it affects the hair on your body. As testosterone levels drop, your baldness will slow down and you'll redistribute your hair on your ears and in your nose and all over you.
I've noticed a lack of muscle mass, things I used to be able to pick up easily. I struggle with.
Yeah. And so that is a problem. And when you come in, remind me, and we'll check your free testosterone levels.
I was just there Tuesday. We should have done it then. Didn't think about it.
We'll get it another time.
Yeah.
So the other thing, Ken, in one of the studies I read is that there's an increased incidence of rotator cuff tears in guys who are on testosterone replacement. Now, the rotator cuff, for those of you who are watching on the video, is where your arm bone meets your shoulder. There's a fibrous band of tissue that connects the muscles in the shoulder, which are actually attached to your neck and your back, and then that attaches to your humerus, the long bone at the upper part of your arm. So that's a ball and socket joint. So you can take your arm and you can rotate it around. And when you get a rotator cuff tear, you may not be able to lift your arm all the way up over your head. And why does this happen? Well, probably you increase your muscle mass with the testosterone, but testosterone is not going to affect your ligaments or your cartilage, because these are not muscles and these are relatively inert tissues. They have a very low rate of metabolism. They're not affected by a whole lot, mostly genetics, and there is some effect when you're growing with the growth hormone, and then when you hit puberty, the growth hormone in men and women closes or stops that growth of the long bones, and you stop growing. But it doesn't really affect the cartilage and the ligaments because they're not muscles. They're not they're not very active tissues, so they're not affected by much of anything. So then what happens is you've got a muscle attached to a tendon or a ligament, and it's gotten stronger, but the attachments haven't. So then you tear them when you go to the gym and try to do things.
Right, and now you're all aggressive because you've got more testosterone, so you can throw the football 50 yards.
Yeah, and then you tear
your...
Yeah. Now, we know that there's some benefits in type 2 diabetes. We know there's some, probably some protective benefits for the heart with the replacement. The heart's a muscle. And so that's important, too, that we keep the heart healthy. And all these things come into play, but we're redefining it much better as to what's safe and what is not when you're on replacement hormones. So, like if you have active breast or prostate cancer, you don't want to take testosterone. That'll make the tumors grow faster and you'll die quicker. But if you've had a radical prostatectomy or radiation therapy and you've gotten rid of all of the cancer in the body, then testosterone's probably safe. And studies are starting to show that. So it's important that the doctors know this and that they work their patients up appropriately and take the right history. And so you have to make sure that your prostate-specific antigen, which is a blood test, as you know, Ken, is normal and it's not elevated. It goes up with prostate cancer. So if it's elevated, then you don't want to take testosterone replacement. Does that make sense?
It does, sir. But do you recommend it to your patients usually?
Yeah, I mean, we get a PSA, and if they have symptoms of low testosterone, we have been testing for it, or if they ask for it. But the problem is we have not been doing the free testosterone, so we probably have missed some people. So now, thanks to this Canadian, who's a pretty bright guy, we're going to start using the free testosterone as well as the total testosterone. And we do the same thing with thyroid hormones. We get the free hormones as well as the total.
Well, I hear a lot about it on the radio. People always talking about testosterone. Come and see us for testosterone show.
Yeah. And I mean, they have all these supplements out that say this will boost your testosterone. Right. Of course, it won't. That's a bunch of nonsense. I've heard some people say that when they eat creatine, some kind of supplement, that they feel like their muscles are bigger, but I guess it has some adverse effects on the kidneys. And one of the nurse anesthetists, he's always talking to me about longevity and what he can take to prolong his life. And so I saw him at the bookstore, and he picked up this book by somebody who said they had the answer to prolonging your life. Guess what it comes back to? the tacrolimus and the sirolimus, which I talked about off and on over the past year or two. I said, you could have saved your money. I would have told you that, but oh well. And I think keeping your testosterone levels in the normal range will make you feel better too. I think you'll be a happier person, probably help with depression and give you a little more oomph, get you out there. Might keep the wife happier too.
So what I'm hearing from you, Doc, is it's okay as long as you get it done through a doctor's office. Don't just start gobbling up over-the-counter
Yeah,
stuff.
and get screened for prostate cancer and breast cancer. So, like if you're a guy with, if you're a Jewish guy and you've got the BRCA genes, you're going to certainly want to check your breast and make sure that you don't have any lumps. Although it's rare, men can get breast cancer, and we actually lost one of our colleagues last year, young guy in his 40s, to breast cancer.
That is young, yeah.
Yeah, that was really young. He was in his late 40s. He was a vascular surgeon, nice guy too, and he was diagnosed in medical school, and he lived, a good 15 years after diagnosis, but finally got him.
Sad after all that.
It was a great loss to the community because we need all the vascular surgeons we can get.
Need all the doctors we can get, period. I understand there's kind of a shortage in some areas of the country anyway.
Yeah, I think out in California they've got plenty, but that's because they have them all ball and chained up so they can't leave the state.
Now I'm thinking more rural areas. I think have problems.
Oh yeah, well, there was a big push back in the 60s and 70s to get doctors out into the rural areas with the National Health Service Corps and programs that the Public Health Service had. So you could take a medical school loan, and then your payback was like the military. You'd go out in the country and practice. And the last time I checked, I think of all the thousands of people or hundreds of people that they sent out there, only one person stayed, and they're probably dead now.
Yeah, exactly.
But, the government, they don't know what they're doing. And I said back then, this is stupid. Why don't you just have good transportation to major medical centers, and then you can send some GPs or nurse practitioners out in the boondocks. But you got to pay them adequately.
Yeah.
Now, you can make big money if you go into smaller rural areas, Ken. Insurers pay more. Medicare will pay you the same. Things are better there because you're not fighting competition like we are here in Florida, where you have a plethora of doctors in South Florida.
It's a better way of life, rural area. If you live in a nice little small town, it's a very nice way of life.
As long as you don't have a brush fire or a forest fire going on.
Well, yeah. that doesn't help anything.
No, that doesn't help, as California is finding out.
Right, exactly.
But at any rate, I agree with you that we need health care and a certain amount of redistribution, but I think also just a certain amount of common sense in there. I mean, you don't want to put a cardiovascular center in Bug Tussle, Tennessee, because you're not going to be able to support it. You've got to have centralized services. And that's just common sense, Ken. I mean, you don't want to put a nuclear reactor in your backyard when you can get one put in your neighbor's backyard. Wait a minute. I mean, in the city somewhere, but.
Well, I was just reading an article the other day that obstetric departments are closing up at many rural hospitals these days, and women have to drive like an hour and a half to have a baby. You could have it in a car on the way to the hospital.
Well, I mean, somehow we survived for 1 million years without obstetricians. I think we'll make it a little longer.
That's true.
It's the high-risk babies and the breech babies. That's the problem. But has it affected the growth of the population in the world?
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah.
Population is dropping everywhere, though. That's going to be a problem, I guess. In the future.
Not everywhere, not in the Muslim world, my friend.
No, really? Oh, that's bad news.
And now the fundamentalists, they come in and take over, and they restrict the women's education to 6th or 7th grade. Men can have multiple wives. There's no birth control. Abortion is a sin. So what do? They make babies.
They're making little soldiers. That's right.
They're making little soldiers. And you can say, well, it's the religion of peace. Not the one I studied. I didn't see that.
All evidence to the contrary.
All evidence to the contrary. Oh, my. What are we going to do?
I'll start having more babies in this country. Somebody's got to pay for, the Social Security in 100 years from now.
Well, South Korea is having a big problem, and I think they've even started a Ministry of Fertility or something like that. Now, I wrote them and said, do you need any help? But I haven't heard back, yet.
Wasn't China?
Yeah, apparently it's not a shortage of men. It's the women are not interested.
Well, I can understand that.
Same way in China.
Same way in China. They have all kinds of incentives if you want to have a kid.
Now, we still have a positive growth rate, but just barely. So I think it's like 2.1 or 2.2 kids for every 2 adults. So I don't know how you make a 10th of a baby, but somebody's going to explain that at the next medical staff meeting. We'll find out. I'll get back to you.
I think that's been dropping since we became an industrialized nation, an industrialized era. In the farm, you needed 10 kids to work the farm.
Well, you had a big farm or you had a small industry and you needed worker bees, and who better than your own family?
Exactly. You pay them nothing.
And you've got some control over the kids. You can pattern them in early to the business and the farm life and all that.
So I think it's all been dropping since then, since we went.
These things undergo upheavals. But what I don't understand is, if our birth rate is dropping so much, how come there's so damn many of us? More.
How come the roads are so clogged? Let's get some of these people off the road, Doc.
I wonder, maybe Elon's actually manufacturing humans and we don't know about it.
On the moon.
Or Mars, and then bringing them back here.
Maybe Mars, yeah. He's got.
Well, nobody's looking.
He's got the rockets for it.
He's got it.
What a
got
guy.
it.
I'm getting a little worried about him. He maybe stretched a little too thin.
Maybe.
From the rockets and the X and now Dodge and all that. Come on, how much can one guy do?
Apparently, he's pretty limitless in energy, like Trump. So they're birds of a feather. They probably wake up at 2 a.m. and call each other and see what they're up to.
They're like Edison. Edison used to work sleep about 4 hours a night. I think he used to sleep in his lab and then right back to work. So these guys.
You know what Abraham Lincoln would do? He would catnap throughout the day and the night because he was so busy with that little Northern Aggression War.
Northern Aggression? Okay.
The War of Northern Aggression, yeah. When you guys came down here and tried to spank us, and you did. We're still smarting. At any rate, he would put a pencil. He would take a pencil and pick it up with his thumb and fingers, and put his arm down the side of his chair. And when he fell asleep, after a few minutes, he'd drop the pencil and he'd wake back up.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
pretty cool, huh?
Dear old Abe.
Yep.
Never learned how to duck.
So this fire out in L.A., from what I can calculate, it is about the size of burning down 1/4 of St. Petersburg, Florida. Now, St. Petersburg, Florida, an area is actually more than half water. Did you know that?
It doesn't surprise me, but
Yeah. So we're about 60 square miles of land and 73, 74 square miles of water. And as you know, we have Lake Maggiore and all kinds of canals and bays and cays. So a lot of that is part of our city. We're actually bigger in size than we appear, but we do have a lot of housing down here too. Now, I think there's 1,000 to 2,000 homes that have been burnt. Is that
something
what
like
we're
that?
hearing now?
Yeah, last estimate I heard was over 1,000. So
Yeah, and St. Petersburg has over 100,000 housing units. So to put it into perspective, this is a catastrophic event for California, but it's certainly not existential. It's not going to take them off the map. But what it is going to do, Ken, is it's going to push up your and my homeowners insurance rates.
Oh, good.
And it'll be more so in states that don't have any controls put in place on the insurance company. So like in Florida, we say you have to do X, Y, or Z or you can't sell insurance here. And we make them contribute to funds and all that. And a lot of states don't have that because they don't have the natural disasters that we have, like hurricanes and like California has with wildfires. But a lot of the insurers out there several months ago said, we're not insuring for fire anymore. We're pulling that.
Yeah,
Did you know that?
Yeah, State Farm did that just weeks before the fire. They're taking some heat for it now, but, it's going to happen.
The problem is that these companies have to make money. If they don't make a 20% gross profit, they're not going to stay in business. And as much as we badmouth the insurance companies' health and everything else, we really do need them. We're really dependent on these companies to provide us with these services because as individuals, we can't afford to repay or to replace everything that we lose in a fire like this or a hurricane. We can't afford to pay all the health care bills. The system is working, but we certainly need some oversight, just like we need oversight with every other industry.
Yeah, those were million-dollar homes that burned down. So, not a lot of people can just replace that. So you're right.
And there's some expensive homes.
Insurance is a necessary evil.
Yeah, and I don't even know if it's evil, but it's a necessary headache, I'll say.
Expense. It's a necessary expense.
Yeah, it's a necessary expense. Now, what does this mean for California? Well, this is going to be one of the most expensive natural disasters in recent history. I would guess that something like the San Francisco fire or earthquake, rather, back at the turn of the last century, would rival this in terms of today's cost because a lot of the city was damaged. But, this is such a small part of L.A. County. L.A. County is huge. It's huge. And these are very small parts. I mean, less than 10% of the county is being affected by these wildfires.
Were the Maui fire is bigger than this? I don't know.
Maui, I thought that was in. That's the area in San Francisco, right?
No, out in Hawaii, they had the Maui. Remember that one neighborhood?
Yeah. I thought you were talking about. I'm like, wait a minute. How do we go from Hawaii to California?
I just jumped out a few thousand miles out the Pacific.
Yeah, well, it could have been. I mean, an ember could have sparked over, and
I'm just wondering which one was bigger.
Yeah,
probably about the same, actually.
But now there's all kinds of conspiracy theories going around, and Trump and Gavin Newsom aren't talking to each other, and Newsom is begging Trump, not begging, but saying to him, don't desert us and don't ignore 40 million people, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, where were you when they were kicking Trump under the bus, buddy boy?
Well,
how many people in California voted Republican this year? I don't know.
Hey, in Orange County, isn't that a fairly Republican area? Used to be, anyway.
Used to be. I don't know if it's still. I would guess that those more expensive neighborhoods are Republican, don't you think?
I'm thinking they might be, yeah.
Yeah, and it's getting close to the Getty Museum now. It's touched on the Getty condos. Burnt down some of their trees and stuff. It hasn't really caught any of the townhomes on fire yet, but if the museum gets swallowed up in that's a big deal.
That's a big deal.
Because that's one of the great.
You know what else would be a tragedy, Doc?
What's that?
If we don't give away a mug today.
Let's give away a mug. What do you say? We didn't have anybody win last week.
We did not have a winner last week. No. Hopefully we'll do better. Well, this week, because the question always deals with something we've talked about at the beginning of the show. So if you've been listening from the top, you have the answer. You just have to recall it. Today's question, we were talking about some hormone therapy for men. What were we discussing? Tell me what we were discussing when we were talking about hormone replacement therapy for men. What hormone were we discussing earlier today? First person with the correct call at 877-969-8600 will win. That's 877-969-8600, 877-969-8600. We were discussing some replacement hormone therapy for men earlier. What hormone were we talking about? Ain't that right, Doctor?
You got it, buddy. And I'm at 727-384-6411, 727-384-6411. I'm Dr. Bill. We'll be right back.
Helping you get where you're trying to go. Get digital media solutions for your business. Visit surroundtampa.com. surroundtampa.com.
With SRN News, I'm Michael Harrington in Washington. The wildfires that erupted this past week across Los Angeles County are far from contained, but they're already expected to be the costliest in U.S. history and amongst the worst natural disasters ever. The devastating blazes have killed at least 16 people and incinerated more than 12,000 structures since they began. California is no stranger to major wildfires. They've generally been concentrated inland, though, and not densely populated areas. This one is much different. Germany's foreign minister says sanctions against Syrian officials responsible for war crimes must remain in place for now, but they're calling for a, quote, smart approach to provide relief to the Syrian population after last month's overthrow of President Bashar Assad. Annalena Baerbock spoke to reporters today after arriving in Saudi Arabia for a conference all about Syria's future. This is SRN News.
Dr. Bill for Bay Area Medical, located at 6399 38th Avenue North in St. Pete, 727-384-6411, 727-384-6411. Full-service clinic with x-ray, heart imaging, ultrasound, stress testing, and minor surgery. We provide quality health care in a warm and friendly atmosphere. We are multilingual, well-trained, and certified. Most American insurance and new patients accepted. Bay Area Medical, home of Can Care, 727-384-6411. 727-384-6411. Dr. Bill here. With social distancing and sheltering in place, telemedicine is here. Bay Area Medical Home of Can Care Clinic offers telemedicine for new and established patients. You can see me without an in-office visit. Schedule an appointment at 727-384-6411, 727-384-6411. When it's time for your appointment, type this web address into your cell phone or computer web browser, doxy.me/Bay Area Med. A cell phone works well and is all you really need. For computers, you need a web camera and speakers. We'll give you this address when you call for your appointment. We accept most insurances and travel insurances. Canadians and visitors, please call your travel insurance company for an authorization number prior to the visit. Copays and deductibles apply. Self-pay rates are available. Just ask. We accept credit cards, PayPal, and Stripe. 727-384-6411, 727-384-6411. Dr. Bill here. My friends at St. Pete MRI and Sleep Diagnostics are your best choice for state-of-the-art MRI, CT, and sleep studies. Quality unsurpassed. 25 years experience makes St. Pete MRI my go-to imaging center. Self-pay rates are competitive and out-of-pocket cost a fraction of a hospital. Conveniently accessible from both sides of the bay at 750 94th Avenue North, St. Pete, near the Gandy. 727-577-2220, 727-577-2220.
At Simple Path Retirement, we don't answer to corporate management or shareholders. We answer to you. Start living your best life today. Visit simplepathretirement.com.
Partly sunny skies for today. We'll see a daytime high of 62. Partly cloudy tonight, the low 52. Variable cloudiness tomorrow. Couple of showers in the afternoon. Tomorrow's high 71. Get your weather news when and how you want it wherever you are. Download our free app or visit AccuWeather.com. That's your AccuWeather forecast. I'm Drew Shannon for AM 860, The Answer.
And I'm back. This is Dr. Bill. Got Ken with me. We're doing a radio show, and we're streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, X, Twitter, YZ. I don't know where all we're going now. Joe's got us all over the world. So we encourage you to follow one of those links and you can see me live. And if you're watching live, there's a picture of some of the burnt out area in the Palisades district of Los Angeles. And we were talking about that earlier in the show. Ken, Pinellas County is about 180,000 acres. Guess how big Los Angeles County is?
How big? Million?
2.5.
2.5 million.
So I was wrong. It's not 10% that's on fire. It's less than 1% of the county that's on fire out there.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it's in neighborhoods where people live, and it's burning down homes and destroying lives.
Yeah, look at those homes. They were built right next to each other, just like they do here. So there's a lot of homes involved there.
Yeah, a lot of homes, and that's why it's good not to have neighbors. Or what you can do is you can just get some radioactive waste and sprinkle it in the lots around your house.
That'll do it, yeah.
Well, nobody will build.
Yeah, so they weren't all $1 million, mansions that burned. Most of these were just common everyday folk homes. So
yep. Unfortunately, that's life. That's life in the fast lane. And the number of deaths is, I think, up to 16 now. And there's a lot of criticism of the way that they have managed things in terms of forestry and water sources and supplies. And I saw they had those two big planes, those big cargo planes that scoop water out of the ocean and bring it in. And one was grounded. Did you hear what happened?
Why was it grounded?
Somebody put a drone up there and it hit the wing
Oh,
of the
jeez.
plane and it damaged the plane, so they had to ground it and fix it.
Put the Christmas gifts away, folks. We're trying to put a fire out here.
Unbelievable. So as we're losing land out in California, Trump is suggesting that we get Greenland, that we take Greenland, which is fine with me. Now, people say, what are you going to do with Greenland? Well, first of all, there's an unlimited amount of resources there. And the island is 3 times the size of Texas, Ken. That's pretty damn big.
Well, do we really know that? There's a lot of ice on it. We don't know really how big it is, do we?
Yeah, I think that we can figure it out because we can map the continental shelf. Now, that's part of North America, so but it's strategically it's extremely important because as the polar caps melt, shipping routes open up in the Arctic and perhaps in the Antarctic. I don't know. I'm not down there, but in the Arctic certainly, because there's no land mass up in the Arctic. It's just all water.
Well, what worries me is that this week Russia declared Greenland pretty much in their sphere of influence.
Yeah, and they're reopening some of their bases and their ports in the north up on the Arctic Sea, which they weren't able to utilize before because they were ice locked most of the year. So it's not only important for resources, but it's strategically important, Ken. And the Chinese have already been up in northern Greenland messing around.
Yeah,
and
so
who knows what the Russians are up to? They're so sneaky.
What sounded like a weird idea to begin with may not be so weird after all.
No, not at all. And things that Trump is saying about California, they're saying it's not true. He's making this up. But I would bet a dime to a dollar that whatever he says, it will be shown a week or two later to be true. Because, of course, the left doesn't want him saying anything negative about them. And they want to protect their inclusiveness and their diversity and all that crap. And they're doing it at the expense of their own people and their own environment. They won't clear the brush. They won't manage their forest like we do here in Florida. We have controlled burns, Ken. Did you know that?
Oh, I know. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And so we get the underbrush out. And another way you can make fire blocks is to put in more golf courses because the fairways will act as a fire block. And it also allows more ventilation through the forest. And we do that here in Florida. We've got lots of golf courses. They're all over the place. I mean, all over the place, Ken. There's a golf course up in Howie in the Hills. There's 72 holes, I think. It's a huge. You don't even know where Howie in the Hills is.
Well, out there in California. It's the Forest Service. I mean, they believe, and you just let it sit there, and it'll burn when it burns. I guess. I don't know. It's strange, but it's not very effective when you have a house.
No, especially when you build your house in the middle of the forest or right on a pile of brush. I mean, come on. What are you thinking here, folks? And remember, Ken, once all these homes on the hills burn down, all the brush and the trees are gone and the roots die, you're going to have mudslides.
That's right. That's next for them.
That's next.
When they get the torrential rains that they get every year. So
now, if you're wealthy in California, you can get bespoken insurance. You can get specialized insurance. You can pay more for specialized fire insurance and mudslide insurance, but you know most people aren't going to be able to afford that. That's craziness.
I'm surprised more people don't have in-house sprinkler systems or something like that. Considering how
That's
often.
not going to help outside.
No, really, no.
Nope, because these fires they're burning down the exterior and then into the interior.
Yeah. Doc, I got a problem.
What's that?
We apparently had a tie for the day's contest. We got 2 mugs to give away.
All right.
If that's all right with you.
That's okay with me. I'm running out, but I'm going to get some more. I've got the wife thinking positively about it, but she wants me to get them domestically, and I'm trying to tell her, you know, a mug I can get for $2 in China is going to cost $8 here, but she doesn't believe me.
Well, if you get those tariffs, they might not be that cheap anymore.
Yeah, that's why I want to get them now before the tariffs come in.
Yeah.
All right,
anyway,
who we got, Ken?
For some reason, we have a tie today, so we have 2 winners. We have Mark Blum of Sarasota. They're listening down south today, Doc.
Hey, Mark.
So congratulations, Mark. You got the right answer, which was testosterone, by the way. We're talking about
testosterone.
Hormone replacement therapy for men earlier today.
And
also,
big T.
That's right, the big T. And also Greg Price of Bartow, Florida.
Wow, Greg, you're really out there. We appreciate you calling in.
Listening in Bartow, or listening in Sarasota, or listening to you everywhere, Doc.
We are locally famous.
That's because you give the best information, you give the best advice. That's why. And they can have that for their own doctor.
If I had something to sell, we could go national, Ken. You got to get me something to sell.
Mugs.
And I'm not talking about small children from Venezuela either.
Well, let's start with sending these folks to your office.
All right, let's do that. And everybody keep talking up Dr. Bill. We appreciate you. All your friends around the country, let them know they can get us on the internet. And if they want to hear us on radio, they can also go to the internet and Google Salem, Tampa Bay, and log into there, and you can hear me live on your little computer.
That's right.
Or your cell phone.
Plus, he's a great doctor. During the entire COVID thing, I don't think you ever gave out one piece of advice that was ever refuted by anybody, to tell you the truth.
No, and damn Facebook took me down for telling the truth.
Yes, they did. I remember that, yeah.
And now that I'm lying through my teeth, they let me back on. I don't understand. How does that work?
They're weird out there in California.
Yeah, it's
the more you lie, the more they like you, I guess.
Well, I think Zuckerberg, now that Trump's coming in, he's not as afraid as he was of the federal government. But you know, the federal government, once they glom onto you, buddy boy, you know, it's like tar. You can't get it off.
I think he's grateful.
Oh yeah.
You got to fire a whole department of people.
Yep.
Just checking folks like you. It's free speech.
The politically correct division.
That's right. It's free speech. So people put on there what they want to.
And we certainly have a right to express our opinions. Now, I know that there's a lot of false rumors out there, and I see that there was one guy who is a conspiracy theorist, and he was saying that the firefighters were using women's purses to throw water on the fire. Well, they weren't women's purses. They were actually fire department issued canvas bags that they carry on the trucks with them, and they can get water quicker, especially if they can't get to a fire hydrant and start dumping it on smaller fires. And but they say that he's a conspiracy theorist, but actually he's got a piece of the truth there, Ken.
I guess I've never seen that before, but okay.
Well, we don't have that here because we actually have water.
That helps, yeah.
You can go to a fire hydrant and you can get water.
Is there something about salt water that won't put out a fire? Why don't they've got an ocean right next to them? Why don't they have pipes running everywhere?
Because it's corrosive, and the people in the Getty Museum and in Hollywood, they don't want all that stuff messing up their cameras and their security systems.
They'd
and all
rather
that.
have the place burned down. I mean, yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, who cares? It's as long as it's not your home.
As long as it's insured, I guess.
As long as it's not your museum.
That's right.
I mean, would it take out the Museum of Native Squirrels? I think, and one of the big museums there is the Museum of and History of Native Squirrels.
I got a great collection of nuts.
And why are we trying to save every little thing on the planet? Come on.
Because everything deserves the right to live.
I mean, what's the point? 90% of all species are come and go. They're gone. We'll be gone someday.
Yeah, 90%. You're right. Absolutely. 90% of species that ever lived are no longer around. So.
Oh, well. What are you going to do?
Just keep on keeping on, Doc. You use the vote. Country will shift. Country's shifting already.
Well, you're big on the vote, and it worked, at least for now. But remember, every time the Democrats get in and they push a little bit more socialism, these programs stick. So, whether it's Medicare or Social Security or Obamacare, once they're here,
they don't
you
go
can't
away.
get rid of them.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's tough.
And so then you keep building and building and building the bureaucracy and putting more and more power in the hands of a small group of people. And how much Doge can do under Trump, I don't know. That's going to be tough for them. I mean, you can say you're going to do all of this, but you got to go through the legislature. You got to go through the courts. You're going to get sued. The states have rights, and Newsom's he's protecting the illegals out there and setting up special places for them to go and hide, and because he's proud of their diversity and their inclusiveness. I think diversity is a little bit overrated myself, but Newsom didn't call me and ask me, so there you go.
Well, give us your hungry. What's on the Statue of Liberty out there?
You're poor, you're wretched, you're ugly, you're hungry.
But it never said do it illegally.
It just said do it in mass.
Just come on over, but come in by the law. That's all we're asking. We're not saying you can't come here.
The left-wing people, the left, they're saying, well, we never had immigration laws before. Yeah, we did. Back in the 1870s, Congress instituted a limitation on the number of Chinese who could come over because the West Coast was complaining that the Chinese were coming over and dragging down the wages because they were taking whatever jobs they could. And, they built the railroads from California to Promontory Point.
Well, places like Ellis Island, those are all because of, laws on immigration.
And Ellis Island was a good thing. I mean, my families came through there. Both the Jewish and the Catholic side of the families came through Ellis Island. And it basically was a clearing point, and it hooked you up with relatives or got you into the city and gave you some idea of where you could get some assistance. And it also screened out people who were sick, who had TB or whatever.
Yeah, they had to go back, yeah. So.
Well, no, they kept them. They quarantined them. And then if they were incurable, then they could send them back. But,
I thought we sent them all back if you had TB. I thought that was an instant rejection.
Well, the other thing you can do is you can just use them for kindling, because... the fat burns really nicely. So.
It does not. Probably a few steps we should take in between. But TB, kindling, burn them. Well, he's not a
the other thing you can do is you can flash freeze them and wait for antibiotics to be invented.
Well, there you go.
Wake them back up, and I told you I went in for that hernia repair a couple of years ago, and I came out a woman. I don't understand, Ken. What happened? Now, speaking of health care, Trump says the world is free riding on our U.S. health care spending. because of the high prices we pay for our medications and our drugs.
Right.
And I've been
Europe
saying
doesn't
this
pay that
for
kind
years.
of price. Europe pays.
I've been saying this for years, that basically we are subsidizing the rest of the world's medications. So when we come up with a monoclonal antibody that costs $1,000 or $2,000 a month, hell, they're selling it in India for $50.
That's what I mean.
Well, how are they doing that? Well, these drug companies are going over there and saying, we're making enough profit over there. Let's see what we can do here to help you folks out. So we're paying the healthcare bill for a lot of the world.
It's got to change.
It's got to change, Ken, because I need more cash, baby. I need cash.
I'd like to keep some more in mind too. So
yeah, I'd like to keep more in mind, and I'd like to spend more. I mean, I want to go on a vacation around the world, and I don't care if some kid in Pakistan doesn't have antibiotics. Let the little excuse me. I'm sorry, what did I say?
You didn't really mean it, though, Doc.
No, I love everybody. I think that we all deserve an opportunity to
have
stay
antibiotics.
alive. Even if we're terrorists in training, everything wants to live, Ken.
That's right. Absolutely right. What else we got to talk about? What's going on in Ukraine lately? It's been so quiet. I'm not sure. They've been blowing things up in Russia again, which is always good. I always like to see that.
Yeah, and they captured a couple of North Korean soldiers.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know what they're going to do with them. They may make good kindling, but I don't think so because they're all so starved up there. They're none of them are their body weights. Their body mass index is under 20, so that's close to starvation.
Yeah, I understand they're not very good fighters either. They attack in mass apparently, similar to what the Japanese used to do. And that didn't work out for the Japanese either. You can't run in mass into, 5 or 6 machine guns.
Well, you can, but the outcome's not going to be that
You're
great.
not going to run very far, right?
No.
So
it is a problem, and it's one that that we faced in the Korean War. And, of course, Matt Ridgway, when he came in, he realized that they were not bringing in millions of soldiers into North Korea. What they were doing is they were fighting in shifts, Ken. So you'd have an 8-hour shift, and it would be endless, so you may have the night shift one week and the day shift another week, but you'd work 8 hours fighting, and then you'd go back out of harm's way, and you'd go to sleep. So they would rotate around like that, kind of an industrialized approach to warfare.
Yeah, actually not a bad idea. When you're
and the Americans and the South Koreans were up all night because they didn't work in shifts, but the Chinese were, they're like, where are all these people coming from? There must be millions of them. No, they just kept rotating them around.
I didn't know that. What a great idea, really.
Yeah, it's a great idea. Yeah. And that's what I'm going to do when I take over. I'm going to have my guys fight in shifts.
I didn't know you were taking over. I hope there's a place in your government for me, Doc.
Court
jester or something.
You'll always be welcome there.
Court jester. I can be your court jester.
Yep.
Get myself a pointy hat.
Absolutely. So at any rate, that's the story on the Ukraine. I know that there are two sides, and everybody's saying that the Ukrainians are not going to win this, but they've been saying that for what, 2 years, 3 years now? How long?
Since day one. Since day one, people have been saying that.
And you know what? They're still in the fight.
Yeah.
They're still doing pretty good. I mean, a lot more Russians have died than Ukrainians.
They're inventing their own weapons. They've got some of the best drones now, I think, in the world. So.
And I think Trump will continue to support them. He'll just be very quiet about it because he'll use discretionary funds rather than go to Congress, because a lot of the ultra-conservative Republicans don't want to fund the Ukraine war. They think that we should not be involved. And I disagree, as you know. I think that we must defend our democracies, and we have to take care of business, and we have to check the Russians. That's going to be an ongoing problem for hundreds of years, because the Russians want Europe. They want Europe. They've wanted Europe for eons, whether they're communist or czarist, it doesn't matter. They want Europe.
Well, they can't have it, so.
No. And we want Greenland, and we can have it.
That's right. I'm not too sure about making Canada the 51st state. That seems like a lot of expense would be taken on.
It'd be California squared.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
But I don't think Canada population, it's probably about the same size as California's now. It's about 40 million people.
That's it, really? And all that? Well, most of it's desolate, yeah.
Oh, it's all frozen tundra.
Right, yeah. So,
well, it used to be anyway. It's all melting now, and it's all mush. And a lot of Canadians are getting stuck in the mud instead of coming down to Florida in the winter, which is disappointing. We want them down here, not up there. So we have to go up there and pull them out of the mud and move them south.
Send them down here to see Dr. Bill.
Absolutely. Dr. Bill needs more business. He's got, yeah, I mean,
Well, I was there this week. I'm doing what I can for you, Doc. So
you're wonderful. And we all love you, Ken.
And I'll be back again in a couple weeks.
What's your name again?
The tall guy that's on the radio.
So now that Syria has fallen into the hands of fundamentalist Muslims, Sunni Muslims, the Alawites, that was the branch of Islam that Assad and his people were, the Alawites are getting kind of nervous. The Alawites are a subsection of Islam, and they're actually, it's a very interesting subsection. They believe that one of the righteous caliphs or early prophets in Islam was actually God incarnate, kind of like Jesus on earth. And they believe that God incarnates on earth intermittently and that he's been on the planet, or she, or whatever God is, 6 or 7 times. They also believe in a Trinity. It's okay to drink. I kind of like these people.
I gotta say, they're not so bad. I think
They're
we
not
can work
so
with
bad.
I think we can work with these people, Doc.
Yeah, but they're scared to death. Now, I got a feeling that they're not very violent either, because if you drink a few beers a night, for the most part, most of us are less violent.
Yeah, I just fall asleep most.
Yeah, you just fall asleep, especially at my age.
Exactly.
So the Alawites, they have a lot of the coast of Syria on the Mediterranean there. So they probably got some valuable property, and that will make them even more of a target. But they're scared because they think that the fundamentalists are going to come in there and take them apart. And they've already had people coming in and doing damage to their communities and raping the women.
Well, that's pretty much the Muslim playbook, isn't it? When one side takes over the other, they just go after them as hard as they can. Usually because the other side came after them while they were in charge.
And that hurts my feelings.
You know what, Doc? We're down to less than a minute.
Oh, my gosh.
We got about 55 seconds.
And that beautiful music in the background, Ken.
Nice Spanish
I love
guitar.
it, baby.
Yes.
At any rate, I'm Dr. Bill. I'm your radio MD. I got Ken with me, and Ken has actually become a big hit around the country after being on my show. He
right.
formerly was a big hit up in Chicago.
More popular than ever now.
And I'm at 727-384-6411, 727-384-6411. Telemedicine, in-office visits, we got it all, Ken. We're at 6399 38th Avenue North, St. Petersburg, Florida.
Doc, say goodbye. We'll listen to some Spanish music.
Doc, say goodbye.